welcome back to CEO.CA's coverage live from Beaver Creek. I'm excited today to be joined by Ian Harris, President, CEO, and Director of Outcrop Silver and Gold. They trade on the venture exchange under the ticker OCGSF. Ian, how are you finding the conference so far?
You know, I feel there's a change in sentiment overall, and in this, there's definitely more going on. There's more quality meetings, and it's a lot of it is what do I do to make things go up? Is like a common CEO chat, not oh my goodness, how much further could it be going down? So I think there's definitely a sentiment change that is definitely being felt, and a lot more optimism overall. So that's quite exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I do wonder if it's a good indicator for the sector. I've been seeing everyone I speak to busy meeting schedules. It's funny being here the last few years. It was very much a despairing mindset, and now it does seem like we've reached that inflection point. So
I think I would add to the amount of corporate meetings, right, with other mining companies has gone up, and I think that's also hopefully a very good forward indicator because many times M&A is what triggers really a true change in and what's happening in the equity market. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's a good preface for the interview. Cautiously optimistic. Let's kick things off. Quick elevator pitch. Tell us about Outcrop and the Santa Ana project.
Yeah, so Outcrop Silver's flagship project is the Santa Ana primary silver project in Colombia. It's one of the highest grade primary silver projects in the world. And I think it's really important to premise, because I get this type of question, is how do people sort through all the noise? And really, there's only truly a handful, maybe two handfuls of quality primary silver projects out there that have a resource. And when I say primary, to even understand that, it's when the majority of the value of a project is truly silver. So about 3/4 of our value is a true silver. So that makes us a true primary project and a very high grade. And we're currently got 2 drills turning to continue to look at the expansion of the existing resource.
Okay, excellent. Lots I want to pick up on that. But maybe we can start with just, what's it like to operate in Colombia? I know that you've been living in Colombia for quite some time, a lot of experience there. What's it like as a mining jurisdiction?
I'm going to start I'm a mining engineer, 25 years, 15 of those are living in South America. I'm fluent in Spanish. I like living in the countries where I have projects because my desire is that they become future mines. It's not a short-term objective of a flash in the pan. I want to see creating value over an extended period of time. And because I've been part of builds and getting projects across the line, right, I truly believe that you have to be on the ground to navigate through the social and political aspects that are so critical on a project. Now, what we really like about Colombia is obviously the endowment in Colombia is amazing, but also in terms of silver, there's a big focus right now and a political push towards energy transition and the strategic metals, which obviously the importance of silver in the solar sector is hound down, critically important, and that's creating a lot of support within the country. So for me, while it's not perfect, nor any jurisdiction is perfect, you could argue BC. I came into somebody said, I would never work in BC. I was like, you work in Mexico, right? And so each jurisdiction, nothing's easy, and that's why you actually have to be, I think, being on the ground, knowing what to do, how to navigate, what's critical is what's most important in a project.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess always trade-offs with those jurisdictions as well between the speed of permitting and social license. You touched on maybe the social licenses there and then community access. What's that like at Santa Ana?
So again, I said I'm a mining engineer, but I also say I spend probably the largest chunk of my time looking at the social political component of a project, because I think that's where most projects fail.
Yeah.
And we've been putting a lot on the ground to make sure, I call it local strength, national reputation drives political will. And so we're doing a lot to make sure that there's more of a collaborative spirit, more involvement of the local community, more engaged, more local purchasing, local production chains. And I'd like to sum it up because it was a very proud moment recently. At the beginning of the year, Tolima, which is our department, held a whole forum on the importance of mining and co-development, right, where our company was a starlight in that. That shows that there's the political will is being developed, or locally in Falun, which is the community closest to us, they just put up their letters of Falun, F-A-L-A-N, and each letter had a significance. L was legacy, and it was the legacy of silver and the future potential of silver, right? With a solar panel on it and a geologist looking at a piece of core. So now we know that it's a part of the source of pride now, and we've worked together to create that. And so that for me is like the indicators. It's the results that you're looking for of all this hard work to create that common pride towards the projects that we work on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as you mentioned, a critical piece of this puzzle that can lead to the death of many a good project. I guess, beyond that social and community-based work that you've been undertaking, tell us about, boots on the ground, exploration work, drilling, how you've grown the resource at Santa Ana.
So I'm going to take a step back. Last year, we put out a resource estimate, total about 37 million ounces, very high grade, one of the highest grade projects, but the majority is in the northeastern section of the project. So we knew in order to grow this resource, we have about a 17-kilometer trend, that we need to start taking larger step outs and building that resource southwards.
Yeah.
And also because of that sediment and that's been built together with the community. When you're moving 7 kilometers down within a trend, right? That established reputation opens up the doors. There's lots of right of ways. There's lots of permissions. There's a lot of new people that you're dealing with. It allowed us to do that, right? And we're actually now looking, and by the end of the year, moving to the very southern portion of our project. So we've been drilling in the center area, demonstrating there's a continuation of high-grade silver mineralization in the center of the trend. And we also want to be testing down at the very end of the trend, because this year we have 2 drills turning. It's all about testing targets and generating new targets. So we're creating so that future can focus on what is this resource and how it's going to grow. So we're very excited because we've been executing on that strategy. I've already seen 2 discoveries already happen through this year. And so we're saying this is getting very exciting for the project.
Fantastic. Yeah, tell us a bit more about the grades you've encountered on this latest drilling work, and are there still results pending?
Well, we got 2 drills running, so we are going now, we were a little quiet during summer because worried nobody was going to be reading, but we put in some consistent news flow over the last few weeks. We expect to get results out, and on some sort of periodic basis, minimally once a month, we expect to put out drill hole results. And we're seeing, our average grade is a little over 600 grams per ton. And we're excited because Aguilar is showing over 1,000 grams. We just hit on Jimenez, which was 3,000 grams per ton. So we're continuing to see high grade and primary silver, which is very exciting. But again, the excitement should be that every time we hit on something new. The last resource was really based on 6 veins. So every time that we're adding one, we're adding a significant amount of ounces to that future resource. And maybe I should even explain that one of the other reasons why we're targeting so many targets this year is because next year I want to focus on just resource drilling.
Okay.
But I want to be putting resource drilling towards what adds the most ounces for the least amount of meters.
Yeah.
Right? Because we know Outcrop silver is worth X dollars per ounce in the ground. That's where our value is being created. And I want to make sure that I'm adding ounces much cheaper than that valuation, right? We're very sensitive now to dilution, and we want to make sure that our work that we're doing is accretive. So we literally have a spreadsheet: success rate, average ounces per hit, blah, 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 and dollars per ounce, right, based on our drilling costs. And so we want to really be scientific in our approach, generating more targets, testing more targets, and drilling resources out on where we can add the most ounces for the cheapest dollars.
Yeah, so tell us a bit more about that strategy. You obviously, I'm sure, reassuring to investors to hear that how diligent you're being in terms of smart use of your capital when you're trying to find the highest number of ounces for those dollars. What indicators are you looking for when you're doing some of these resource expansion drilling?
So obviously there's a lot of work even before we even drill test, because we don't want to be drill testing, just throw holes everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of geophysics, geochemistry, trenching, channel sampling, chip sampling, so many things before we say, now it's ready to test with a drill. So really there's major components. It's thickness, grade, and success rate, right? Because there's faulting, there's all sorts of things happening. So there's actually a percentage of hits and misses that you get. Some of the veins are actually some of the highest grade areas are also the ones that are more sporadic, right? I like Aguilar because we're seeing consistent grade over a very long strike length, but all that goes in. So it's average success, average width, average grade, and we know the spacing to get to inferred or indicated. How much does it cost per ounce, right? So we add that all in, and it's basically comes out to a pretty simple equation. How much does it cost me? How much is I worth? Is that worth it? Let's go. So that's basically the approach. We literally have a spreadsheet, just as I just described, that we're putting together, so that we put our plans in together for 2025. We want to be making sure we're drilling now resource focused in the best areas, and we'll still be generating more targets, always updating that list.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it sounds like busy 2025 with that resource drilling. Do you have any idea of timelines for maybe updating the resource estimate?
So big for me is one of the problems when you put out a resource estimate is many times market things, there's a pin push, maybe it'll grow 10%. Maybe we want to make sure that when we do an updated resource calculation, we're showing very large increases in the resource. We have some internal targets where we'd like to get before we work on like a standard project development, PEA, pre-feasibility, et cetera.
Yeah.
We have those goals in our head of where we want to get to, but we want to make sure when we do a resource estimate, as a minimum, we would like to keep 2 drills turning through 2025, which is about 24,000 meters for the year. But things start getting exciting. There's a little bit more. We saw a little blip there in silver price breaking 30, and we saw a lot of movement. We if we can and it makes sense, we'd like to add additional drills to get to that target. So we'll be evaluating near the end of 2025 whether it's a good time to do an updated resource and let everybody know we're here, we're going here. Don't worry. And then every time we do a new one, we look at making bigger jumps in the overall resource.
Okay, fantastic. I guess just maybe a slightly more detailed question on the mineralogy at the project. But when you're looking to grow a resource like that, what do you need to be seeing in the ground to make sure that you have that potential?
I had an interesting in the same conference, right? Many people get grade, right? Then there's the recovery component. People start getting, right?
Yeah.
But what we miss is the payable, right? At the end of the day, what you want is to understand is how much are you going to get paid for the thing at the end of the process? Where's your revenue coming from, right? And so that is one of the most exciting things for me as a mining engineer. Obviously, high grade is fantastic. It's king, right? But if you go through it's then, okay, you pull it out of the ground. How much is that rock worth that I just pulled out of the ground? And if you look across mining methods, it's pretty much the same cost per ton. There's some variations for labor rates, et cetera, but that's why you compare grade between projects, because it's an indication of how much money you get is that rock worth. Then how much do you recover, right? So there's a little bit less of that, right? But then the last one is payable.
Yeah.
So what we're so excited about is we have extremely high grade. We just showed through flotation and gravity getting a 96% recovery silver, 98.5% recovery through flotation and through gravity separation, right? But the other exciting thing is it's making a high-grade precious metal concentrate. We're seeing over 4,000 grams per ton of silver, over 50 grams per ton gold. We've already talked to some different people. They said your payable on this material will be almost just like doré. So we can literally get a payable close to doré without leaching, right? So that's extremely exciting. And the other one is many times silver projects, it's not a silver concentrate, it's a lead concentrate. It's a zinc concentrate. It might even be a copper concentrate, but you're not getting paid for the silver. You're sending it to a smelter. Sometimes the payable is 75%. You're not getting the value back, right? To the end process. Doré is always the best because payables are super high. But we're also excited we're getting such a high-grade concentrate that we could get very close to doré levels, which says it's the trifecta. High grade, high recovery, high payable. And that's really exciting for us within the project because it says this is getting roots to become a future mine, a low-cost producer, and that's very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. It is something that you don't hear people talking about as much. The payables there, and I think it's an interesting part of the story. When you're looking long term, can't be overlooked. I guess just to wrap up here, when investors are looking at exploration stories, why should they be paying attention to Outcrop?
I would say there's the key characteristics that makes it extremely special. First, only 30% of all silver comes from primary silver mines. So they're obviously the most leveraged projects to overall silver price, right? So when somebody says so-and-so silver, are they truly a silver? Or are they a polymetallic? How much of their value is actually coming from? So A, we're primary silver. Two, we're one of the highest grade projects in the world. Three, we have high recovery, high potential payable. And then in the end, I think we've created a very clear strategy. Even if market stays the way it is, we have created a strategy to create value in today's market, and obviously extremely leveraged to where silver can go, which obviously the backdrop which we did discuss in terms of supply and demand deficit, a huge one, increasing usage in industrial. There's so many things going for silver right now. The historically low ratio to gold. There's so many reasons people think that eventually here silver is going to go on a true run, and we're obviously one of the most leveraged companies to that out there.
Fantastic. Well, Ian, appreciate the insights into Santa Ana and your operations today. Looking forward to hearing more updates throughout the year. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for the time. Always a pleasure.